Hello, fellas and ladies. Oh my god, that was close and loud. Hello, fellas and ladies. I'm officially on the final lap of my TIFF coverage. I got like 2 for 1 today, even. I'm going crazy. But I know a place where you can get like 60 for 1. It's in the form of words on Bite Size Breakdown, where I ranked and reviewed every single movie I saw at TIFF this year. And I also think it would just be baseline polite to also check everything the site has and follow the socials. Next up, I'll be reviewing both films directed by Richard Linklater that went and are coming like this month, both of which follow kind of a tortured artist type of deal about 2 historic artists. One about Jean-Luc Godard and one about Lawrence Hart. Starting off with the lesser of the two, NOUVELLE, which follows Jean-Luc Godard as he blows past studio executives and all those kind of bad guys to ring in the French New Wave with this classic film Breathless. And this film mostly follows the behind-the-scenes process of that film. As I alluded to, this is not my favorite. Didn't really care for this. I do like Breathless. I like most of Godard's movies, the ones I've seen, which is not a lot, but I have a general understanding of him and his work. But, this one didn't fully land for me, if I'm being completely honest. I don't have, like, ill will towards it, per se. I'm not, like, angry at it. Dude, the movie is mostly, like, filmed like Breathless. Like, it's edited pretty much like this, very much homage to it in its narrative. It's all in black and white. The audio is definitely of the 50s. This movie can best be described as a very expensive fan film. It's got very No Way Home-esque, like, you know, cameos. It's very much No Way Home for fans of French cinema. You got these moments where it's like, look, it's Eric Romer and Francois Truffaut. And then, like, other moments where it's like, look, it's Agnès Varda and Jean Cocteau. And, yeah, I don't know, they kind of just there to, you go, hey, look, where it's straight up like, is this a Marvel movie? Why are we doing this? This is mostly just like a hangout movie, I will say. I don't think the movie has much, like, in the way of distracting you from that fact, to its credit. But I have to say, I did feel like halfway through, I was like, this movie feels very incurious about Jean-Luc Godard or Breathless or like the French New Wave, which I don't really know why. It just kind of has this portrait of Jean-Luc Godard that is very much like, oh, he's like a bad boy genius who has this idea for this excellent like game changer. And it's just like, and then he did it. Like I said, this movie's kind of paying up to Breathless, and yet the movie felt a little too polished. Breathless is, like, at the end of the day, and as the movie itself will tell you, very fly by the seat of its pants. It's almost guerrilla. Like, it's very much like they had no money, and they just kind of made the movie, like, on the seat of Jean-Luc Godard's pants. And this movie feels, like, super choreographed and polished and nice, and I get it. I get in some regards, it's like, okay, it has to look like, you know, the streets of, like, France at the time. I get shit like that, but why is it so choreographed and so, like, meticulous for a film trying to, like, replicate the tone of, like, in the style of Breathless? You could have just not done that, but the filmmaking and, like, the editing is, and the music and the sound work is very very Breathless-esque. And there are some fun moments where, you know, Jean-Luc Godard has an idea of how to film something, and you know, he does, and like one moment in particular where they show how he shot in the street. I thought stuff like that was very interesting. But otherwise, it's just kind of at a point becomes an endless cycle. Once the production of the movie starts in Nouvelle, it just kind of becomes a cycle of like Jean-Luc Godard going like, okay, here's an idea of how to do this thing. It's very innovative. And then a guy or an actor just goes, no, Jean-Luc Godard, you cannot do that. And then Jean-Luc Godard goes, yes, I will do the thing. And, you know the thing. It's like, no one will ever see this movie, Jean-Luc Godard. And Jean-Luc Godard is just like, yes, they will, I'm a genius. While watching the movie, I couldn't help but think about The Disaster Artist, the movie about The Room. You know, not Breathless, to say the least. The Disaster Artist definitely doesn't shy away from the fact that that The Room is really stupid, and, you know, it definitely has its fun at its expense. However, I do think the portrayal of Tommy Wiseau in the movie is very interesting, and in regards to its, you know, take on the art that it's judging, that it's about, I should more say. It wasn't just, look at this fucking idiot making a bad movie. It was like, here's this, you know, weirdo who made this outsider art that everyone around him started to slowly realize isn't very good, and he's very obviously incompetent, but he still put his entire body into it, and it kind of found success in its own little weird way. Meanwhile, Nouvelle Vague is kind of just Jean-Luc Godard going, I want to make the French New Wave, and then he did. James Franco had a more nuanced approach to outsider art with his The Room movie than Richard Linklater with his Breathless movie. Cast all around is actually pretty good. I'm probably saying his name wrong, but Guillaume Marbek, who plays Jean-Luc Godard, is actually very good. He's very charming. He has this aura to him that's very effective. Zoe Deutsch and Aubrey Dillon, who play Jean Seberg and Jean-Paul Belmondo, they're pretty good. They're pretty startling how much they look like each other. I was watching Breathless before TIFF began, and I never even put this together, but I was like, oh wow, Zoe Deutsch and Jean Seberg really do look alike, and they're both very good. Nothing outstanding though. No one else in the cast is special. It is an overall just underwhelming movie to me. I'm not mad at it per se. For a lot of people, it's gonna be yeah, it's fun, it's entertaining. I got to see Agnes Varda be played in a movie, but yada yada yada. But I couldn't help but feel a little disappointed by how special any of this was. How it had nothing real to say about any of its subjects. Breathless is a game changer, for a reason, and it just didn't feel like it. Just kind of was yeah, he's smart, he's a fucking genius. Now look at it. Overall, there's not much to grab onto for Nouvelle Vague, even if you're a fan of Breathless or Jean-Luc Godard or the French New Wave. The movie just offers nothing of substance to these subjects and comes off as a polished fan film for fans of French movies. Not my favorite Linklater by a long stretch, but also not atrocious. I'll give it 4.5 smoking Jean-Luc Godards out of 10. Blue Moon is the other film from Richard Linklater, and this one follows Lauren's Hart, if you're unaware, a Broadway lyricist, on the opening night of Oklahoma, co-created by his former creative partner, Richard Rodgers, and the entire film takes place at a bar, as we see him reflect on his career and stew on certain things, especially a woman he's infatuated with, played by Margaret Qualley. Now, you did hear me say that this entire movie takes place at a bar, and that is correct. And you might be thinking, oh great, it's gonna feel like a play, probably it's a chamber piece, play, yada yada yada. Yeah, it very much feels like a play, and guess what? Linklater owns it. My hair is out of control. Linklater owns that this movie has a very stagey feel to it. The movie actually plays up that it's basically a play, with the performances, with the way it looks, with the way it moves around the bar. The bar in itself becomes a character, especially even in the ways that it just makes Ethan Hawke look short, I imagine, through framing. But I think it actually gave a lot to it, that this isn't just some chamber piece that is trying too hard to look like a movie. This is a movie that is owning that it looks like a play, which kind of makes sense. These are people celebrating a play. Oklahoma is a play. I don't know if you knew that, you fucking idiots. But the crux of this movie is on Ethan Hawke, who's playing Lauren's Hart, who gives probably one of my favorite performances he's ever given. He is a tour de force in this movie. He's flamboyant, so full of personality, as this person famously did. 95% of this movie is just him monologuing and talking about his certain things in his life and stewing over the inherent jealousy in him that he's not a part of his former partner's most successful thing. He's funny, he's emotionally satisfying, he's got this very invigorating personality to him that you just kind of can't help but look at him and just be entertained by him, but also look into his soul. He's lonely. Ethan Hawke really sells every bit of this movie, and I would love to see him get an Oscar nomination. He deserves it. He's terrific. The movie's written by Robert Kaplow. The script is pretty magnificent. Richard Linklater does an excellent job of adapting it. Again, the movie owns the stage. Look at that fucking hair. I gotta cut this. It's getting too far. This is so much worse. I momentarily fixed it, but the message is still clear. I gotta get snipped. Where was I saying? Oh, Kaplow. Fantastic. There's so many monologues and snappy dialogue in this movie, and like I said, Linklater makes it out to look and feel like a play, which blends well with the narrative and Ethan Hawke's character's struggles. Its dissection of Lauren's Hart is very interesting. I don't know if it gives us the big emotional punch it was maybe aiming for. The movie definitely ends on a note that's pretty sad, and definitely has something about his relationships with other people. That's a little sad to see, but not like devastating, I guess. But it's still a fascinating dissection of Lauren's heart, his known depression. Like, the movie even starts with a line that said like he was the saddest human on earth, but also one of the most, like, eccentric. His sexuality, his alcoholism, what he gets out of art. This is a very interesting tortured artist, like, portrait, combined with this very charismatic Ethan Hawke performance, who is like just smoking a cigar the entire movie. You got something very invigorating, very interesting, very fun to watch. This is just, you just love soaking up the dialogue of this masterclass performance in this bar setting. I've talked a lot about Ethan Hawke. I also want to say that Andrew Scott's pretty great. Everybody around Ethan Hawke is pretty excellent. Margaret Qualley definitely has her moments to shine towards the end. Bobby Cannavale was a little wasted. He's just kind of being like the, hey, what you doing here? Kind of barkeep, which he tends to be, unfortunately, but he's good at it. But yeah, you come here for the Ethan Hawke performance, and you're in for a absolutely outstanding performance, as well as a funny, entertaining ride that embraces its stage, like, origins, even though it's not based on a play to my knowledge, but maybe the origins of the figure that it's looking to examine. Blue Moon's setting sets the stage for a funny and emotionally invigorating experience that, if for nothing else, lets Ethan Hawke give one of its absolute best performances to date, guiding this tortured artist piece into new territories as a true testament of the loneliness artists feel. And I'm gonna give it 8.5 bald Ethan Hawks out of 10. Is he bald? Balding. That's what I got for you today. 2 movies. Look at that, you greedy fuckers. Let's grab and share. Bye-bye.